Hey guys, Michelle Glass here, and our topic for our second episode of our Lecture 16 series is just the autonomic nervous system. So we just have a few little tidbits to talk about here before we get into the nitty-gritty details. Okay, so autonomic nervous system can be abbreviated, as you see here, ANS. And when I think about the autonomic nervous system, I like to think of the word automatic, because what we see with this part of the nervous system is the ANS is doing the unconscious control of your visceral functions. And whenever we hear this word visceral, we should be thinking about our guts, our organs, our insides. When we talk about controlling our visceral functions, what we're really talking about here is that the ANS controls your smooth muscle, your cardiac muscle, your adipose tissue, and your glands. And while it sounds like we're just controlling 4 tissues with the nervous system here, we do see that the glands are a broad category. So this includes things like salivary glands and sebaceous glands and sweat glands and endocrine glands, which are those glands that are producing our hormones. So right there is a nice connection between the 2 systems. And there are others, okay? So those are our possible effectors here. Now, when we're looking at the organization of the ANS, we do want to start in the diencephalon with the hypothalamus. The hypothalamus is really our integrative center here for the autonomic nervous system. So we do have a neuron here whose cell body is located in the hypothalamus, and it's extending down the brainstem and, in some cases further down into the spinal cord to synapse onto our next neuron. Now remember that the hypothalamus is also our bridge between our nervous system and our endocrine system. So again, here's another close connection between these 2 systems, as they are both responsible for the regulation and coordination of homeostasis. Now, the hypothalamic neuron can synapse onto what is referred to here as our preganglionic motor neuron. Now, the preganglionic motor neurons are going to be housed either in the brain stem or the spinal cord, depending on which part of the ANS they belong to. So one of the things we'll see as we look at the sympathetic division and the parasympathetic division is that their preganglionic motor neurons are housed at different places. We'll see the parasympathetic located in the brain stem and the sacral region, and then we'll see that the preganglionic motor neurons of the sympathetic division are located between T1 and L2 of the spinal cord. Now notice that I have my preganglionic neuron extending out into the peripheral nervous system and synapsing at a location called a ganglion. So ganglion is our singular version of the word. Ganglia with an IA ending is the plural form. Now this term is very specific. It's referring to a collection of cell bodies in the peripheral nervous system. So essentially, our ganglia are these little small processing centers in the peripheral nervous system. So outside of the brain, outside of the spinal cord. And so the reason our preganglionic neuron is called preganglionic is its cell body is located in the CNS and its fibers extending out and synapsing at the ganglia. So it comes before the ganglia. The preganglionic motor neuron is going to synapse onto a ganglionic motor neuron. Now your ganglionic motor neuron has its cell body housed in the ganglia. You also might see the ganglionic motor neuron described as the post-ganglionic neuron because its fiber, its axon, is extending away or after that ganglia, or ganglion, I should say, right? Okay, so here is our basic organization. As we are looking at the sympathetic and the parasympathetic divisions, we'll see that there's differences in how they're organized. And we'll be talking about those differences as they relate to the preganglionic neurons and the ganglionic neurons. So make sure you have a good understanding of what these terms mean here. And then, of course, finally, as we're investigating our ANS, there's two primary categories here. We have what's called the sympathetic division. And in very generalized terms, we can think about the sympathetic division as increasing the metabolism, although that's not true in every single cell and tissue, but we'll see that overall that's pretty accurate. And then as we look at our parasympathetic division, we'll see that it's going to do a decrease in your metabolism. And again, that's not true in every single scenario, but it is true for most of the cells and tissues that it innervates. And so the key thing here to see is that these two divisions are doing opposite functions. So what we will see is if one increases the metabolism, the other will lower it. And then we might see a flip-flop of that depending on the tissues that we're talking about. And so together then, because we can do these opposite functions, we're able to regulate homeostasis.